Hello, welcome in Rose Project. Myself Katkar Priyanka Sham. रे शिक्षण संस्था सद्गुरु गाडगे महाराज कॉलेज कराड. 12th Rose Project 2021-22. That project is conducted by Sadguru Gadge Maharaj College, Karad. Myself Katkar Priyanka Sham. My subject is physics and I will study you topic number 15, structure of atoms and nuclei. That is structure of atoms and nuclei. These are the points particular we will study into the lecture. First, we will see introduction of chapter 15, structure of atoms and nuclei. Introduction of that chapter. That is, that chapter contains of different types of the models, which will be identified atoms and nuclei of the any substance. Okay, so first is the Thomson atomic model. Second, Ziegler-Marsden experiment. Third, Rutherford's atomic model. And fourth, difficulties with Rutherford's model. Then atomic spectra, Bohr's atomic model, and radii of the orbit. Into that lecture, we will study Thomson atomic model, Ziegler-Marsden experiment, Rutherford's atomic model, difficulties with Rutherford's model, atomic spectra, Bohr's atomic model, and radii of the orbits. Different types of the orbits. We will see the different radii of the particular orbits. Okay. First, introduction of the structure of atoms and nuclei. Introduction of the paper second, chapter number 15, structure of the atoms and nuclei. What is the introduction? Mainly Greek philosopher Leucippus, 317 BC. Greek philosopher Leucippus, 370 BC, and Democritus from 460 to 370 BC, were the first scientists to propose in the 5th century BC that matter is made up of indivisible parts called atoms. Matter is made up of indivisible parts called atoms. That atoms cannot be divisible. Said by the two scientists. Then Dalton from 76 to 1766 to 1844 gave his atomic theory. That is theory in early 19th century. According to the Dalton's theory, matter is made up of indestructible particles. Second, atoms of given element are identical. And third one is, atom can combine with other atoms to form new substance. Then form new substance. So these are the three conclusions of the Dalton's theory. First, atom is made up of indestructible particles. When atom is made, then that particle cannot be destroyed into the any nature. Then atoms of given element are identical. All the elements of the atoms which having the same nature, they are similar in nature. It is called as identical. And atoms can combine with other atoms to form new substance. When two or more atoms we will combine, then formation of the new substance. So these are the three conclusions of the Dalton's atomic theory. Then atoms were indestructible was shown to be wrong by the experiment J.J. Thomson. But scientist J.J. Thomson in 1856 to 1940, this is the main era of the Thomson, then who discovered the electrons in 1987. That J.J. Thomson says that atoms were indestructible was shown to be wrong, that atoms are destructible nature, says Thomson. Then again in introduction we can contain the point. He then proceeded to give his atomic model, which had some deficiency and was later improved upon by the Ernest Rutherford. There are some earlier deficiency into the model, so that deficiency can be improved by Ernest Rutherford in 1871 to 1937 and Niels Bohr, which having the era 1885 to 1962. So these two scientists, Rutherford and Bohr, will discuss these different models in this chapter. You have already studied about the atoms and nuclei in 11th standard chemistry. This chapter will enable you to consolidate your concept in this chapter. That is, consolidate your concept in this subject. Okay. First is Thomson atomic model. Thomson proposed his model of an atom. Thomson's proposed his model of an atom in 1903. According to this model, an atom is a sphere. Atom is a sphere having a uniform positive charge in which electrons are embedded. Electrons are embedded. Here, atom which having the sphere-like nature and having a uniform positive charge which are containing at the center, and electrons are embedded into that model. Okay, so this model is referred as plum pudding model. Like plum pudding model, this Thomson atomic model which will be considered. The total positive charge is equal to total negative charge. Total positive charge is equal to total negative charge of the electron in the atom, rendering it electrical neutral. When we contain the total positive charge, which will be equalized by the total negative charge of the electrons in the atom, rendering it electrical neutral, then that atom is called as electrical neutral. Okay. Then as the whole solid sphere is uniformly positively charged, the positive charge cannot come out, and only the negatively charged electrons which are small can be emitted. The model also explains the formation of the ions and ionic compounds. However, further experiment on the structure of atoms, which are described below, shows the distribution of the charges to be very different than what was proposed in Thomson model. So, from the Thomson atomic model, we can say that atom is electrical neutral when total positive charge of the central atom is equal to total negative charge which are rotate around the center positive charge. Then it should be electrical neutral. And as the whole solid sphere is uniformly positive charge, as the whole solid sphere is uniformly positive charge, the positive charge cannot come, and only the negatively charged electrons, which are small, can be emitted. The model also explains the formation of the ions, different types of the ions and ionic compounds. However, further experiments on the structure of atoms, which are described below, shows the distribution of charges to be very different than what was proposed in Thomson's model. Here is the animation of the Thomson atomic model. Here is a Thomson's model of an atom. In this model, you will learn about the Thomson model of an atom. Anode ray tube experiment. Anode ray experiment. Anode ray tube experiment. From that experiment, we can say that electrons, gas molecules, and the protons. Electrons, gas molecules, and the protons, which are, when gas molecules are made up of the electrons and protons, number of the protons are at the one side and the electrons at the another side. Then from that we can say that at the particular two anodes position, there we will get protons and electrons, and atom is made up of the electrons, also protons. So Sir J.J. Thomson was the first scientist to provide the structure of the atom from the inside. Sir J.J. Thomson was the first scientist to provide the structure of the atom from inside. Okay. Then, here, Thomson's models of atom. Here is the positive charge and negative charge. Positive charge means proton and negative charge electrons, which are gathered together. When positive charge protons and negative charge electrons, it is sphere made up of protons. Okay, sphere made up of protons. And when that sphere made, then when we get at the center of the any atom, positively charged protons are consist, and the electrons are rotating or embedded into the mainly atoms, then we will get Thomson's model of an atom. It is like the plum pudding model, or it is like the watermelon model. It is like the plum pudding model or like the watermelon model. Here are negative charge, which are the electrons, and positive, that is, here is a red like structure, it is a proton, and electrons at the in between the red like structure. So electrons at the embedded into the proton position. Here red part shows the protons and the electrons embedded into the model. Sphere made up of protons. Okay. It is like a watermelon model, structure, and the plum pudding model. So Thomson model of an atom, also called as plum pudding model or watermelon structure, watermelon like structure. Okay. So this is the particular Thomson atomic model. Then this is the end of the animation. Next, Ziegler-Marsden experiment. Ziegler-Marsden experiment. In order to understand the structure of atoms, Rutherford suggests an experiment for scattering of alpha particles by atoms. Scattering of alpha particles by atoms. Alpha particles are helium nuclei and are positively charged. Alpha particles are helium nuclei and are positively charged, having charge of 2 protons. The experiment was performed by his colleagues Ziegler in 1882 to 1945 and Marsden in 1889 to 1970. Between 1908 and 1930, a sketch of the experimental setup is shown in figure. Okay, so see that particular Rutherford suggested experiment for scattering of alpha particles. Alpha particles are helium nuclei, mainly alpha particle which having the helium nuclei at the center, which are in positive nature and which having the charge of 2 protons. Then in Ziegler-Marsden experiment, alpha particles from the source were collimated, that is focus into narrow beam. That is, alpha particle source are collimated by the collimator, and with respect to that collimator we will get one intensity which having a narrow beam, and we are made to fall on a gold foil, So when that alpha particles fall on the gold foil, the scattered particle produce scintillation on the surrounding screen. That means alpha particles are incident or scattered on a gold foil, then it will be scintillated onto the surrounding screen. The scintillation could be observed through a microscope, which could be moved to cover different angles with respect to the incident beam. With respect to alpha particle, focus of the alpha particles, then on the gold foil they will be falling. Then it will be give different types of the angles with respect to incident beam. That angles are made up of the incident beams. So in that figure we will give the particular idea. Ziegler-Marsden experiment. Here is a source of alpha particle. That is, radiation from the alpha particles are coming from the cavity of one end, and that source of alpha particle is passing from the one direction, and it will be collimated from the collimator. Because of the collimator, we will give one intensity and it will be attack on a gold foil. Then after attacking on gold foil, they can be deflected at different angles, theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 4 up to the theta n. These are the angles made by the alpha particles. So here is a gold foil and here is a detector. Then different types of the detection are detected by the detector. That alpha particle is deflected by the different angles, and deflection can be detected onto the detector. So this is the experiment. Okay, so this Ziegler-Marsden experiment asks for the exam also. So with the help of that neat label diagram we can explain that model. Ziegler-Marsden experiment. Here is a source of alpha particle. From that source alpha particles can be emitted, and which having the one narrow beam nature. From when alpha particles are passing from the collimator, it will be collimated and it will give a one narrow intensity, and it will be attack on the gold foil, and then they will be deflected at different angles. Theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 are the different angles. And here is a gold foil. So this is the Ziegler-Marsden experiment. Then Ziegler-Marsden experiment, it was found that most of the alpha particles pass straight through the foil, while few were deflected or scattered by the percentage of the incident alpha particles were scattered through the angles larger than 0.1 degree. Even out of these, most were deflected through very small angles. About one alpha particle in 8000 was deflected through the angle larger than 90 degree, and fewer still were deflected through the angles as large as 180 degree. It means that it was found that most of the alpha particle passing straight line through the foil. That means gold foil which having the concentric center nuclei which having the positive charge. So alpha particle which having the helium like structures at the center, then two protons are gathered together into the center alpha nucleus. That means alpha particle which having the positive nature, and some are deflected by 0.1 degree, 90 degree, 0.1 degree to 90 degree there is a deflection. So about one alpha particle in 8000 was deflected through the angle larger than 90 degree, and a fewer still were deflected through the angles as large as 180 degrees. So this deflection can be detected by detector. It means that some particles having the negative natures, some alpha particles having the negative nature, some having the positive nature. So positive particles are gathered together at the center, and at the negative, that is gold foil which consists at the negative at the around the nucleus. So some of the alpha particles are scattered at backside, and they can be detected by the detector. That means atom consists of the positive nucleus at the center, and the negative electrons are rotated at the around the particular positive nucleus. So this is the assumptions of the Ziegler-Marsden experiment. So results of the atomic Rutherford's of the atomic model. Rutherford's atomic model. Results of Ziegler-Marsden experiment could not be explained by Thomson model. What is the result of the Ziegler-Marsden experiment could not be explained by the Thomson model. So in that model, the positive charge was uniformly spread over the large spheres constituting the atoms. That is, mainly positive charge are uniformly spread at the center of the sphere, and the volume density of the positive charge would thus be very small, and of the incident alpha particles would get deflected only through very small angles. So we can say that the negative particles are rotated around the nucleus. So from the deflections of very small deflections of the angles, we can say that there are the presence of the some or more negative charges. So Rutherford argued that alpha particles which were deflected back must have encountered a massive particles with a large positive charge, so that it was repelled back. Means at the center of the gold foil there are some massive particles which having the positive charge, and electrons are revolve around the particular position. From the fact that extremely small numbers of alpha particles turn back while most others pass through the almost undeflected, he concluded that positive charge particles in the atom must be very small in size and must contain most of the mass of the atom. From the experimental data, the size of the particle was found to be about 10 fm, that is 10 femtometer, 10 femtometer, 10 raised to minus 15, which is about 10 raised to minus 5 times the size of the atoms. So the volume of the particle was thus found to be about 10 to 15 times that of an atom. He called the particle the nucleus of an atom, and he called this particle, this is the nucleus of an atom. Okay. He proposed that, Rutherford atomic model, he proposed that entire positive charge, Rutherford says that entire positive charge and most of the 19.9% of the mass of an atom is concentrated in the central nucleus, is concentrated into the central nucleus, and the electrons revolve around it in circular orbits, similar to the revolution of the planets around the sun in the solar system. We know that in solar system, sun is at the center and another planets which are revolve around the sun. Like that solar system, here Rutherford atomic model, that is exactly 99.9% mass is concentrated at the central nucleus, and particular electrons are revolving around the nucleus. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus. So like the solar system, the revolution of the electrons was necessary, as without it the electrons would fall into the positively charged nucleus and the atom would collapse. That means when electrons are revolve around the nucleus, they will be revolve, and then that electrons would fall into the positively charged nucleus and the atom would collapse. So the space between the orbits of the electrons and the nucleus is mostly empty. The space between the orbits of the electrons and the nucleus is mostly empty. So thus most alpha particles pass through this empty space, undeflected, and very few which are in direct line with the tiny nucleus or are extremely close to it, so get repelled and get deflected through the large angles. So this is the particular assumptions, that is the space between the orbits of the electrons and the nucleus is mostly empty, and the most of the alpha particles pass through this empty space is undeflected, and very few which are in direct line with the tiny nucleus or extremely close to it get repelled and get deflected through the large angles. When the space is empty, then some of the alpha particles can be passed easily, but some cannot be passed because they can be deflected by the repelled by the large angles. Then Rutherford atomic model, another concept. So this is because of the large mass of the nucleus, which does not get affected when force is applied on the atom. So larger mass of the nucleus which does not affected when force is applied on the atom. Then what are the difficulties with the Rutherford atomic model? What are the difficulties with the Rutherford atomic model? Though this model in its basic form, though this model is in its basic form, still is accepted, it faces certain difficulties. We know from the Maxwell equation that an accelerated charge emits electromagnetic radiation. An accelerated charge emits electromagnetic radiation. An electron in Rutherford's model, moves uniformly along in a circular orbit around the nucleus. Electron in Rutherford's model moves uniformly along in a circular orbit around the nucleus, even though the magnitude of its velocity is constant. Its direction changes continuously, and so the motion is an accelerated motion. Thus, the electron should emit electromagnetic radiation continuously. Difficulties with Rutherford model. Also, as it emits radiation, its energy would decrease, and consequently the radius of the orbit would decrease continuously. It would then spiral into the nucleus, causing the atom to collapse and lose its atomic properties. As the electron loses energy, its velocity changes continuously, and the frequency of the radiation emitted would also changes continuously. Frequency of the radiation emitted would also changes continuously as it moves towards the nucleus. Then, when particular electrons when loses its energy, its velocity changes continuously, and the frequency of the radiation emitted would also change continuously, and as it moves towards the nucleus. None of these things are observed. Firstly, most of the atoms are very stable. And secondly, they do not constantly emit electromagnetic radiation. And definitely not of varying frequency. The atoms have to be given energy. Example, by heating for them to be able to emit radiation, and even then they emit electromagnetic radiation of particular frequency, as will be seen in the next section, Rutherford model, on all of these counts. Then atomic spectra. We know that when a metallic object is heated, it emits radiation of different wavelengths. When this radiation is passed through the prism, we get a continuous spectrum. However, the case is different when we heat hydrogen gas inside a glass tube to a high temperature. The emitted radiation has only few selected wavelength, and when passes through the prism, we get what is called as line spectrum, as shown for the visible range. So from the figure 15.2, we can show that the hydrogen emits radiation of wavelength 410, 434, 486 and 656 nanometer, and does not emit any radiation with the wavelengths in between these wavelengths. So lines seen in the spectrums are called as emission lines. The lines seen in the spectrum are called as emission lines. So into the figure 15.2, we will see the hydrogen spectrum. Here mainly spectra can be divided into the three parts. First is UV, that is ultraviolet, then visible, and IR. IR means infrared region, visible, and UV means ultraviolet region. So ultraviolet region, which having the range of wavelength 410 nanometer, then 434 nanometer, 486 nanometer, and visible, which IR having range 656 nanometer. 656 nanometer. So this is the hydrogen spectrum, which having the different types of the regions: UV, visible, and IR. UV means ultraviolet region, visible region, and IR means infrared regions. So these are the regions. So hydrogen spectrum. Hydrogen atom also emits radiation. Hydrogen atom also emits radiation at some other values of wavelength. At some other values of wavelengths in the ultraviolet, the infrared, IR, and the longer wavelengths. The spectral lines can be divided into the groups known as series with the names of the scientists who studied them. The series starting from the shorter wavelength and going to the larger wavelength are called as Lyman series. Then Balmer series, Paschen series, Brackett series, and Fern series, etc. In each series, the separation between the successive lines decreases as we go towards the shorter wave. Schematic diagrams for the first three series are shown in the figure. The limiting value of the wavelength for each series is shown by the dotted lines in the figure length, and they reach a limiting value. So different series of the hydrogen spectrum. Here are the different series. First is Lyman limit. Then what is the Lyman limit? Lyman limit is varying from 19 nanometer, 100 nanometer, 110 nanometer to 120 nanometer. So this is a Lyman limit. It is denoted by the lambda, varying from 19 nanometer, that is 19 × 10⁻⁹ nanometer, to the 120 nanometer. Then Balmer limit. Balmer limit having the range 400 nanometer to then 500 nanometer is the middle range, and 600 nanometer is the last range. So from the variation of the different types of the wavelength region, we can say that first is a Lyman series, second is a Balmer series, and third is a Paschen series, which is varying from the 400 nanometer means 400 into 10⁻⁻ nanometer, and here is a 0.5 micron, that is a 0.5 into 10⁻⁶ meter. 1 micron, 1.5 micron, and 2 micron. That is the limit of the Paschen series. So 0.5 into 10⁻⁶ micron. This is the limit. So the observed wavelengths of the emission lines, lines are found to obey the relation. From the observed wavelength of the emission lines are found to obey the relation, that is 1 upon lambda is equal to R into 1 upon n square minus 1 upon m square, bracket complete. Lambda is the wavelength of the line and R is a constant and m are in integers. N is equal to 1, 2, 3 respectively for the Lyman, Balmer, Paschen series, while m takes all the integral values greater than n for that series. The wavelength decreases with increase in m. The difference in the wavelengths of the successive lines in each series, fixed value of n can be calculated from the equation and shown to be decrease with increase in m. Thus, successive lines in a given series come closer and closer, ultimately reach the values of lambda is equal to nr square in the limit m tends to infinity. For different values of n, atoms of other elements also emits line spectra. The wavelength of the lines emitted by each element are unique, so much so that we can identify the elements from the wavelengths of the spectral lines that emits Rutherford's model could not explain the atomic spectra. So Bohr's atomic model. Then another scientist, Niels Bohr, modified a Rutherford's model by applying ideas of the quantum physics, which were being developed at that time. He realized that Rutherford's model is essentially correct, and all that it needs is stability of the orbits. Also, the electrons in this stable orbit should not emit electromagnetic waves as required by classical electromagnetic theory. He made three postulates which define his atomic model. These are the given below. First, Bohr's atomic model first contain the first assumption: the electrons revolve around the nucleus in circular orbits. Then second, this is the same assumption as in Rutherford's model, and the centripetal force necessary for the circular motion is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between the electron and the nucleus. That is, for the circulation of the electrons around the nucleus, there is a centripetal force is required. So, circular motion is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between the electrons and the nucleus. Second, the radius of the orbit of the electron can only take certain fixed values such that angular momentum of the electron in this orbit is an integral multiple of h upon 2 pi, here h being a Planck's constant. Such orbits are called as stable orbits or stable states of the electrons, and the electrons in these orbits do not emit radiation as is demanded by the classical physics. Thus, different orbits have different and definite values of the angular momentum and therefore different values of energies. Third one is an electron can make a transition from one of its orbit to another orbit having lower energy. In doing so, it emits a photon of energy equal to the difference in its energies into the two orbits. So, using radii of the orbit, using first two postulates, we can study the entire dynamics of the circular motion of the electron, including its energy. Let the mass of the electron be me, its velocity in the n-stable orbit be vn, and the radius of the orbit be rn. So, the angular momentum is me into vn into rn. And according to the second postulate, we can say that me into vn into rn is equal to nh divided by twice pi. This is the equation number second. So, the positive integer n is called as principal quantum number of the electron, and the centripetal force necessary for the circular motion of the electron is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between the electron and the nucleus. So, assuming the atomic number of the atom to be Z, the total positive charge on the nucleus is Ze, and we can write me into vn square divided by rn is equal to Ze square divided by 4 pi epsilon into rn square. This is the equation number second. Here, epsilon naught is the permittivity of vacuum and E is the electron charge. So, eliminating Vn from the equation 1 and 2, we can say that me into n square into s square divided by 4 pi square me square rn cube is equal to Ze square divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into rn square. So, rn is equal to n square s square into epsilon naught divided by pi into me into z into e square. This is the equation number 3. Similarly, eliminating rn from the equation, we get vn is equal to z into e square divided by twice epsilon naught into h into n, equation number 4. So, equation 3 shows that the radius of the orbit is proportional to n square, that is the square of the principal quantum number. The radius increases with increasing n. The hydrogen atom has only one electron, that is Z is 1. Substituting the values of the constant h, epsilon naught, m and e into the equation 3, we get for n is equal to 1, r1 is equal to 0.053 nanometer. So, this is called as Bohr radius and denoted by a naught. So, a naught is equal to s square into epsilon naught divided by pi into me into e square. This is the radius of the smallest Bohr orbit of the electron in hydrogen atom. From the equation, we can say that Rn is equal to a naught into n square. This is the equation number 5. Thank you. We will meet another lecture.